one of the options that we look at when it comes to copy command was the -r command. Right, that's recursively. Then you have another command called the interactive command, the -i command. If you want to interact, you already saw the -i command. Something that happened because I already created b.txt. When I was trying to copy into b.txt, it asked me, do you want to override, right? That's you having an interactive, you don't just want to copy. For example, if you already had an existing file and you want to copy something into that file, you want to make sure that it asks you a question, do you really want to do this, right? So that maybe you have because it's going to overwrite whatever file you had in that, the contents of the file is going to override it. So it's a way of you protecting yourself so that if you had a valuable information in a certain file, you don't want to overwrite it because it's actually going to overwrite it. So the same thing, let's take a look at it real quick. If I have, so now I have file a.txt. If I do cp-i a.txt, and I want to copy that file into b.txt, right? This is going to ask me, do you really want to override what you had in text file b.txt? I will say yes. So I'll type y, yes, and it would override it. So if I want to see the content of file b.txt now, right? See the additional thing that I added there, it overwrites and it brings the contents of what I had in file A into file B, right? So it's a way of you protecting yourself and make sure that this is exactly what you do. Then you always want to use a -i option when you're doing a copy command. Okay. And there's another one called a backup. For example, you want to create a file and want to create a backup. If anything happens, you can go back to your backup. If your computer crashes and your file is corrupted and you want to recover your file, there's always, for security reasons, you can always create a backup so that if it's an important file, you have a backup. So how do you do that? You use a -b option, right? For example, if I want to copy a file, copy the contents. So let's modify the contents of file A. So for example, if I do vi a.txt. Now I want to modify the contents of this file. This is a very good subject, and I like to study it with a glass of wine. Okay. All right. So I've modified the contents of this file now. Now I want to copy this file into A into B. Then I want a backup just in case anything happens to my file. So I can just do copy, right? I use the option -b, then txt, a.txt, then b.txt, right? So it asks me, do you want to overwrite? I say yes. Okay. Now if I do ls now, you see the contents of this file I should have a b.txt, right? So I have this with a tilde. So this is my backup file. See, it's created this b, right? Apart from the b, it has also created a b.txt folder with a backup, right? So that's how you create a backup. Whenever you use a -b option, it will give you that backup. Okay, let me see. What is a -f is a false if the system is unable to open a destination file. So we might not be able to demonstrate this because I'm a root, or I can use sudo to create a file. But let me explain what it is. There are some certain files that is created. So for example, we have more than me in the system. I give you authorization to open a file. For example, I give you a privilege and you can create a file, you can open a file. Now, there are some certain files that I don't give you the privilege. So you only have probably the read permission, right? And I want to force myself into copying another file into that file. I can do that, right? I can do that even though I don't have permission. I only have a read permission. So I can use a -F option to force myself to copy into that file, right? But I don't have two scenarios right now, and I'm a super user. I'm using sudo to open both of these files, so I wouldn't be able to demonstrate this. But it happens in the organization when you're giving, creating, that's user management. You give other people privilege to open files. You can, if you want to copy file into the file that I've already created, you can do it at -F option to force yourself and copy into that folder. So that's what that means. But it's not going to, if I do a -F here, it's not going to do anything because I am the one that creates both files. I'm probably the owner of both files. And I use a super, I have either a root or I'm using a super user privilege to create those files. So I won't be able to demonstrate this, but this is exactly what it is. You can use that -F option. Okay, let's see which other one. We already discussed the use of a -R and big R. So copying directory structure with this option, CP command shows its recursive behavior by copying the entire directory structure recursively. So this is you, if you want to create, if you want to move these files into this folder, you can do that, right? Without our option, it's going to give you an option. It's going to give you an error. But if you do it with a recursive -R, right, it should be able to create these files, move these files into a different folder for you. So this is an example of what we already did. We did this, the use of recursive, and you can repeat this. This is just a folder, moving a folder to a folder using the -R option. The first time we tried, it gave us an error because we didn't use the -R option. So when you use the -R option, you'll be able to. So you can copy the entire contents of a file. For example, you have all these files. You can copy them into these two folders, right? So that's what this is. All right, so that's the copy command. The quickest copy command that you can use is CP, copy a file to a different file. And like I said, you're going to use that a lot, right? And you want to make sure that you create it interactively, you use a -I option so that you make sure that you really want to copy that file. And you want to create a backup, you use a -B option to do that. If you want to copy from a folder to a folder, remember you need to use a -R option, right? Those are the three options that I know that you use all the time, right? But if you're just simply copying file to file, make sure you use a -I option to be sure. Okay, then real quick. The move command is simple, is similar to the copy command. So you want to move a file or a folder from one location to the other. That's what it is, right? Copy is just copying. So when you copy, you still have the contents of the other file. For example, if I want to copy, let me demonstrate this. So AGE, I want to copy this, the contents of this file to this file, AGE. Right, I've done a copy now. I'm copying now. So I copy this and it becomes this. So in other words, what I'm doing is I'm doing a copy, and now this is copied to this, right? So I have something, a copy now. That's exactly what it is. A move command means I'm moving the entire contents of this out here, in here. So when I move, I don't have the content here anymore. It moves from here, now it's here. That's a move, right? It's different from a copy command, okay? So to use the move command, you use the command mv for move, okay? So it's the same thing. For example, let's demonstrate this real quick. Play this. If I have a move, I want to move, let's see, what file do we have? We have A to B. Okay, so I want to move the contents of, what's the contents of A.txt? This is the contents. And what's the contents of B.txt? and this is the content. Now I want to move the contents of A into B. So I just do mv a.txt to b.txt, right? Want to override it? Yes, I want to override it. Yes, right? So if I do cat a.txt now, right? It's telling me no file like that exists because I've moved the contents. The file disappears. You can't see the file anymore. But if I cat b.txt, now the contents of file A is now in B. Now I don't have file A anymore. So if I do ls right now, A is gone. My file A is gone completely, right? So that's the move command in a nutshell, okay? And it also has options as well. Let's take a look at, let's try to understand an example. Moving this to this, ls, so you can do B, C, D. You can move the entire contents of B, C, D into a new file completely, right? So let me show you, let me demonstrate this real quick. So I have, let me recreate uh, a.txt, right? Right, do an I, great is the Lord. Okay, I have that content in there, right? And I have contents in B, and let's also create C, vic.txt, right? Do an I, this is the Lord has made, okay? All right, so I have a content in there. So I have three files right now, A, B, C. Now I want to move all this content into a file called D, okay? Let's assume I have a file D. Let's see what it will do first. If I do a move command, so I do a.txt, I do a b.txt, and I do a c.txt, right? And I want to move all this file to d.txt. Let's see how this works. Move target d.txt is not a directory. So you cannot move these files into a file. You can only move this into a directory, right? So say I have created a directory. So let's call a directory, make directory d, my directory, call it my directory, okay? Now let's repeat that command that we ran previously. Now I call this my directory. Does that work? Yes. See, you can move all these files into a directory, right? So if I do a cat, if I do ls on my directory now, you see that all this has been moved into my directory, right? So I have this content in my directory. If I do, can see it into my directory now, right? And if I do ls, you see these three directories in my directories, right? So you're able to move all these three files into a new directory. And sometimes, even though you've not created a directory explicitly, now if you use the move command, and I think if you use a -r, it would automatically create that directory for you. I think I have it here. Option, I think, okay, I have it here. This is the same thing you want to do it interactively, like we did with the read command. You can do it interactively, and it's going to ask you, do you want to move? Then you say yes, right? Let's not repeat that one. And you can first, right? If you don't have, don't have a permission to write into that file, you can also use a -f option to write, similar to what we did in the copy command, right? The only difference is the use of -f. Okay. No cobbler, right? With -n option, env prevent an existing file from being overwritten, right? So if you use a -n option, right, it prevents the file from over. If you already had a file, this is also for you to safeguard yourself. If you already had a file or in a directory, you have a file and you don't want to, say for example, let's demonstrate. Let me see if I can demonstrate this. So now you already have a file in B. So you do move a.txt into b.txt, right? Now you're using a -n option in this case, right? That file is not going to copy because you have a content. So you do cat b.txt, right? The contents of B stays the same. Do cat a.txt, right? The contents of A is the same. It will not copy, right? The contents of A is great is the law. The content of B is this is very good subject. It's not going to copy this because you had a content is this. It's going to protect you from copying, right? So that's when you use a -n option. It's called no cobbler, right? And you also create a backup too when you do a move command. For example, you want to move -b now a.txt into b.txt, right? When you do the move, because it's going to overwrite the contents of B, then you say yes. Now it's going to create that, right? It creates that. Once it creates that, it's also going to create a backup for b.txt. So we do ls now, we should be able to see a b.txt with a tilde, meaning that it has created a backup automatically for you, okay? So that's the move command. So now you know the copy command, you know the move command, right? I want to introduce you to one other command, okay? All this information, it's simple. Doing it is simple. It's just run a line, but I need you to understand. It seems like I'm pouring a lot of information, but understand it's just env and cp. CP is a copy command, env is a move command. Those are the two things we've learned today. I want to introduce one other command to you called the echo command, right? So let me see, I think this, text reading display command. So if you want to display something, if you want to read, you want to visualize what you input, right? How do you do it? I want to read something on my command line. How do I do it? Or if I want to display some kind of command. So you use a command called echo command. The echo command is a built-in Linux feature that prints out argument as a standard output. Echo is commonly used to display text strings or command result as messages. The echo command is Linux, is used to display string provided by user. This is the syntax. Echo, you give an option, then the string. So for example, if you use echo hello world, it would give you back hello world, right? So let's take a look at what happens when you use that. And there are some options of using it, but let's demonstrate that real quick. Let me clear this. All right. So let me cd back into this. So for example, if I do echo, right, I say hello world. Oh, sorry, I did not close that string. Right, it will give you hello world. And who knows why we put this in parentheses? Anyone knows why we put this in parentheses? So if I do echo hello world, and I put it in single quote like this or double quote, anybody, any taker? Who knows the reason?
I think to state that it's a comment.
No, it's not a comment.
I think that's what.
Or is it like a statement? Because you have the echo command right next to it.
Yeah, it's a statement, quite all right. But there's something is particular what I'm looking for. Good attempt, though.
Is it what we intend to print?
That's what you're written to print. Quite all right. That's, yeah. I can also, yeah. I can also say print number. Okay, let's take a look. Let's say echo 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? It's going to echo 1, 2, 3, 4 for me. Why do I put it in quotation, single quote? The question. Okay, let me explain it to you. Now, in computer science, you have, this is called a string. These are data types, right? This data type is called string. So anything that you have, characters, words, string, even though I am putting this 1, 2, 3, this is not an integer. So you have an integer, you have a string, you have Boolean. Those are what they call data types, right? So if you're writing something, so translating this, because this is a number, this is still read as an alphabet. It doesn't read like a number. So the computer read this because I'm putting a quote, this single quote on this is reading as a string character. So this is the data type called string. There's another data type called integer. When we get into Linux scripting, I'll explain this a little bit more. There's another one that called integers. So integers are your numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the reason I'm putting this in this quotation mark, because they are string, right? So in other words, it's a string character that is going to read back to me, right? If I do echo 1, 2, 3, right? It's going to echo back because I'm asking it to echo it back to me. But the real thing that it's coming up still as a string, even though I don't, the preferred way of writing is put it in quotation, right? So that you know it's a string. Is the best practice to do that. So even if you don't put it in parentheses or in quote, it's still going to come out to you. It's going to echo. Echo means echo, literally. What you send to me, send it back to me. Give me what I sent to you. Like you're speaking to a wall and you have an echo coming from the wall. So anything you echo, right, is going to give you the result back. It's going to give you a print back. So if I say, write anything here, echo anything, is going to give it back to me. But echo also has, if you want to, the use case of all these commands, you see the use case when we get into scripting, right? You will write scripting and you'll see the beauty of why all this is being studied. So echo also has options. For example, you can use the C options, -C options, you can use the -E options. For using a -C options, okay, let's start with -E options. Using the -E option allows you to use escape characters. These special characters make it easy to customize the output of the echo command. For instance, using a -C lets you shorten the output of omitting the part of the string that follows the escape character. So if you use a -C option, here, use the -E and -C, the only thing that you see would be this hello world, and these other characters, it will ignore it. Let's do this for example. So if I write this echo -E, then I have it in quote, hello world. Sorry, I can't type. Hello world, right? Exclamation C, right? I have a /C this. Then I say this is P now. See what it's going to ignore every other thing after the C, and it's just going to give me hello world, right? It's going to give me hello world, right? It ignores every other thing that, so I'm echoing, it filters this other part as noise, right? And it echoes just what I want to. And you can also use a -N, whatever. First of all, if you want to use any option, you need to use a -E. A -E would recognize that you're using some special characters, right? So in this, you can use a -N, right? A -N, anytime you want to move the output to a new line. So if you want to move in the output to a new line, so it looks better. For example, if I have this command, let me copy and paste for the sake of time. Right. Let me right? If I copy it and paste here, right? What happened? They did not run. Did I close? Echo -n wall. Something is missing here. This is correct. -n. So what it should do is it's not running. Let's take a look at this again. Let's fully get out this. So if I have echo -e, then my hello world, comma, /n, meaning go to a new line. Then I have a -n here, go to a new line. This looks good. So what's wrong with it? Yeah, I'm not sure why this is not running. So what it's supposed to do is every time you have a -n, let me do this, echo -e. Let me exit out of this first. Echo, then I have a Toro, then I have a -n, right? I have a frame, then I have a -n. Right? If I close this, he should give me, so this, it shouldn't give me this. Oh, I think I missed a -e, sorry. I missed a -e here. So -e would, right? So this is how it would appear, right? It moves it to the next line. Everything that you're writing moves to the next line. So if I have more than, right, I can also add ran. If that's the way to spell ran. Is that how to spell ran? Ran, yeah. Then I have another name, David, right? And so on and so forth. So what it does is it breaks it down, right? It gets to the next line. It goes to the next line whenever you use the -n. So that's what happens, but I don't know why it's not doing that with this
The
one.
first one, I think there was no space between the -n and the word,
Oh,
-n
-n
and
and the,
this.
oh, okay. Okay. That's probably, yeah, so it's reading as, yeah, let's take a look at it again. Yeah, there's no space here. That must be it. But it still doesn't run, right? So I don't really know what's going on here, right? You see, but it's a similar thing that I'm doing here, and it's working here. It's not working here. Anyone has an idea why it's not working here? Okay, now it's working. Maybe the X, oh, it's still not working. Did it work? That's what I'm calling. Still didn't work. So what happened? What's the difference between what I did here and what I did here? Oh, this is, oh, wait a minute. No, this /n, this is show up. Now it's bothering me now. This is /n. Oh, it worked here, right? This is it. This is what I wanted to see, right? It worked here. We got it right here. And now I put in, I'm not supposed to put the last one here.
One thing I noticed is that the one now has comma. The one you copied has comma, but the one you use initially there's no comma.
There's no comma. Okay. Yeah. So, well, you guys, you have the idea, right? So that's exactly what you do. When you do /n, so to correct this one right here, move this a little bit out here. Yeah, done. Because if it stands, so you read this as one word, as knees, not a /n. So you need to put a space in between this one and this one. And that should be good. So if I copy this and run it again, let's see what happens. Let's run this again. That didn't happen. Is it the exclamation sign? Yeah, I think it's the exclamation sign. Is this exclamation sign that is killing it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's the exclamation sign. So when I take out the exclamation sign, now it runs. Right? We're about to see it. Wait a minute. But when it runs, it has an exclamation sign in here. Oh, whatever. Okay, you have the you have the idea, right? So /n is just it brings it to the next line. So that's what it is. I'm not going to dwell on this. So you can also use the add horizontals tab space. You want to create a space, right? So you use -t to create a space in between. So you just give a space. So if you do, let's copy this and paste. But then I think we still need to play this. So if I run this like this, a -t, there's something going on here. Echo -e. And by the way, I ran all this afternoon and it was working. Okay, so it was okay. Maybe when I copy it from here and paste, there's something going on when it's pasting. So I'm typing the same thing. It's that same thing and it's working. So this only gives a space between this and this. That's what it is, the -t. When I copied it and pasted it, didn't run, but when I type it in manually, it runs. So this is just it gives, what it does is it gives you the space between these when you give it a -t. There's another one, there's a -v, right? A -v gives a vertical space, right? So if I do echo -e, hello, then I do a -v, a /v, well, is a slash, I keep calling it /v, this, then I have a /v is, then /v, then I have PNAP. Okay, then I close it. Right, you see, it gives me a vertical spacing. That's what -v does. Okay, so that's the echo command. The echo command helps you create or echo back what you give to it. The use case of it, you'll see how we use the echo command later on in our studies. And this is one use case, of course, right? So for example, you see the way we created our files, right? I used to, for example, I want to create a file. I want to do a vi test.txt, right? You can create a file this way, right? And there is an empty file. This file is created. Then I want to populate this file. One way you can do it is the use of echo command. You can do echo -e. Then what do I need to enter into this file, right? I am proud of all the DevOps engineers in this class, right? I want to echo this, but then I want to store this in a file. I want to append this in the file that I created. So I can use this append sign, right? And I can append it in here in text.txt, right? So now if I cut this file now, text.txt, right? The contents of that file is moved from here, from the echo command to my cat file. So in other words, I can write a file, can write information here, and I can append this right into this. So this append, I think that's another thing that I would show you guys, I will study. I can do a one greater than sign. What I'm doing in this is actually moving is the same thing, right? So let me explain. I think I have an explanation in the slide. I have a file here. I have another file here. Okay, so I have a file here, and I have contents of this file. The content of this file is my name, call it IT, right? Or I don't have any file in here, and I'm writing something, and the first thing I write is IT. Right. Not working. Let's try this. Okay, so I'm writing IT, right? In here, I'm using this. Right. When I use this, what I'm doing is I'm just adding content to this file. The content I'm adding is IT, so this will come in here, right? If I write another content, this is my last name, and I do another greater than sign, what is going to come into this file is going to be UK. It's going to erase what I had initially, right? So now I move in and put in David, right? It's my next thing. So what will happen here? It will overwrite what I had here, and this will be David. Okay, so what if I don't want to overwrite the first contents, IT? I just want to add. So in other words, what I need is IT, okay, David. How do I do that? I use this. I use this. I use this. So when I'm writing to this file, I'm just appending. I'm adding to this. I'm not overriding. When you use one greater than sign, you override. When you use a double sign, you are appending into the previous work that you're doing, right? So in this case, if I'm using this, so in other words, we first wrote into the text file, right? So if I do something, write something again, so let's say class A, right? Now, if I append this, if I do cat test.txt, right, I've overwritten what was in there, in that file. Okay, let's take a look at something. Let me modify this now. I do B, right? Now I'm changing this value now to double greater sign, right? Okay, now let's cut this file again now. Cat test.txt. Now I'm writing into, so now I have two files now. I'm not overwriting the first file, right? I can do that again, right? Now I have class C. Okay. Now if I cut this file now, right? I am writing, right? I'll keep writing, I'm appending, right? I'm not overwriting what I had. Okay. So, but if I do this, let's take a look at this. Now I'm doing this now. Okay. Let's take a look at cut the file. I've overwritten everything that was in there. Now overwritten it with this command because I was using one greater than sign. I wasn't using the double greater than sign. Okay. But I think I have this also in the slide down the road. So that's the use of the greater than and double greater than sign when you're writing an echo command. Okay. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so echo command, you can also use an echo command to display who is the user. Now, we would use this a lot, and you'll see this a lot when you get into, when you start writing Linux scripting, right? So if you want to echo who owns, for example, let's take a look. at this. If I do PWD would tell me my file path, right? Who is the user? Who owns this? Who owns anything here? The owner or the user is EC2, right? But how do you do that programmatically, right? If you want to write a program and you want to use the user, this is the use case of echo command. You want to identify who the user is. How do we do that? So if you use echo command and you use a $, capital sign user, it's going to give you the user. The user now is the root. So the root, I'm the root, right? So let me exit this. Let me exit out of this, right? I'm now the EC2 user. So if I do echo $, capital sign user, right? Who is the user now? The user is EC2 user, right? It will tell you what the EC2 user. So we're writing a script and maybe you want to give privileges to the user, right? And this is how you programmatically see who is the user of this. Or you want to write a statement, for example, you want to do echo command, echo, this is my name, right? Then you type in user. Right? It gives you this is my name. And whose name is it? EC2 user, because you are the user, right? So you did not put this name, you just use $ user, and you automatically bring in who is the user. So with this user, you can use it to do anything. You can also use an echo command to call the ls. For example, I want to list the directories and the files that I have in my system. And I want to come up with first with a statement. So I can do something like this. Echo, this is the list of the directories and files in my system, right? My system. Then you have a $, right? In that $, you put ls. ls is the command that you use to list the directories, right? So once you do that, it's going to, this is the list of the directories and files in my system. Then it lists all the directories, right? And you can use this while you're writing your scripting, right? To actually state the commands that you're trying to run, and so on and so forth. So that's the use of echo command. Let me see, what else do we have? Okay, then we have the cat command. I've been using the cat command, so I think it's a good place to stop.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when we use echo command, can we also like input the date command too inside the echo?
Yeah, you can put the date command. Yes, you can put the, let's see. First of all, let's run the date command and make sure we have the date command right. So if it's date is going to give you this. So you can say echo today's date is, then you put a $, and you type in date. Let's see how that goes. You need to put that in parentheses. So there's a problem here. And let me see, it doesn't like it when you put a two double quote, right? Today's date is giving us dates, it's not showing that. So let's put this in, let's put this like this. Let's see what it does. It's not giving us that date, commando. Why is it not giving us the date command? It should give us the date command. Let's see, let me put this in. I know I've done it with the date command before. Huh. Let me take this out of this parenthesis. Put it separately. And no, it's not. It's yeah, no, I'll find out how to do it and I'll get back to you on this one. Because I know I've done it with the date command before, but I can't remember exactly the exact syntax. I'll find out, I'll let you know. Yep. So that's the echo command. Next class, you have to answer this question first. Yeah, let me put it here so I remember. Yeah. Echo command. I'll probably post it on I'll post it on Telegram as well. So you can take a look at it. But we'll deliberate on it again before we continue next time. Okay, so that's the command. We've done the copy command, the move command, and the echo command. I need you to remember these commands. I did not create a homework, but I so watch your Telegram. I'll put a homework so you can use it to practice, something that you can practice with. Otherwise, you can go back to, I'll repost this note because I just created those commands. I noticed I missed them in my slides. So I went back and created them because you really need to know those commands. So I'm going to resend a PDF of this so you have it. And by the way, this note that I have right here is more or less like a textbook. You can use it for references even when you start work. You can see that I named it according to what the commands do. So if you run into any problem or you need a command, you can always use this as a reference. Just go to where and you see all the commands. It's a lot. That took time to prepare this, so you can use it. I use it too. That's exactly what I use. I reference this a lot. So you can also actually prepare this for myself. It wasn't for for lecturing. I prepare it as a cheat sheet for myself. So you can use this as well. It would help you in the future as well. But I'm going to put in some homework so you can practice and effect what you've learned today. Any last question or comments?
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
So I wonder what's the main difference between the echo and cat command?
Okay. So both of them, you can use both of them to display. You see, both of them are used to display information, right? But the cat command, the echo command, you will be able to use echo command in combination of a different command. When you're using a cat command, you can only use cat commands. For example, we can do, if you have a file, if you have a file name, so let's say, what file do we have? Have a file fruit. You can do a cat fruit.txt, and we'll show you the contents of that file. Fruits, I mean, with an is. Yeah, it will show you the contents of that file, right? The echo command is, so this will give you the content of this file. Echo command echoes back what you asked it to give back. So in other words, if I say echo me, right? Apple, banana, grape, right? This is not a file that is coming back. You are the one that is asking this to be given back to you as an output. You understand me? This was already in the file, and I want to see the contents of this file. So I use a cat command to see the contents of this file. But what I'm doing right now wasn't in a file. I'm just creating this right now. But I can create this right? It's giving me what I'm asking it now. I can create this and put them in a file. I can use echo command to create a file. So in other words, I can do this, and I can move this or append this to a file called, what's the name of the file that I have? I have, let's put it on data.txt. Right? Now, if I cut data.txt, right, I'll see the contents of this file. Right? So I can use echo command to actually populate my own file. Whereas the cat command, I use the cat command to read the contents of that file. Do you understand? Or it's still confusing? If you're able to explain it again, I can put it in a different way.
Yeah, I understand that part, but where I don't get is, okay, let me ask another question regarding what you just did.
Okay.
Now, if putting this apple, banana, and grape in the file data.txt, now assuming you have a content in the data.txt, will that erase what you have, or is going to add to the content like when you use the VI command?
Yeah, it's going to erase. If you do, that's what I was planning. If you do single greater than, it's going to erase what was in the file. As a matter of fact, we have some data in this file. But if you use double greater than, it's going to append. Let's do that again. Okay. All right. Say in this case, we have apple, banana, and apple. And so now let's append to this. All right. So I can do echo. I want to add, which other fruit do we have there? Mango is a fruit. What other fruit do we have? What other fruit do you guys eat? I'm out of. What other fruit? Give me a name of fruit.
Guava?
Pawpaw.
Peach.
Pawpaw. Peach. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to add to the contents that are already created. So I can do double greater than sign data.txt. Right? Okay, now I can cut this file now, data.csv, because I want to see the contents of this file, data.txt. Now, you see, I'm adding to this file now, right? I add to the file using an echo command. Okay, now I don't want to add to the file. I want to overwrite what is in this file. So I can also do this, right? I can echo. All right, give me a name of the file, another pineapple. All right, now take a look at this. Now I do just one greater than sign, data.txt. See what happens. Now let's cut this, data.txt. Everything that was in it is gone. So it's overwrite it with the single content, pineapple. So that's the difference between the echo command and the cat command. Cat, you can read the content. You can use the echo command to actually create a content and add to a file. But the cat command, you can use the cat command to read the file that you created. Read the content of the file. Does that make sense? It's still yes, no, yes, no. And you can also use a VI command to populate a file as well. A vim or VI command.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. That, in other words, the VI command and the echo command with the double this thing does the same thing.
Yes. Yeah, it does the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So the thing is, you can find when we get into scripting, you see the use of echo command, because you cannot really use the VI command when you're doing scripting, right? If you want to make changes to your file, right, the echo command comes in when you're doing a programming, when you're writing a program, when writing a script. So that's the difference. So that's echo command is much more powerful. But if you just want to create a file and populate a file, right? For example, you want to write your script, use the VI command to write a script. But inside that script, and you want to use an echo command to populate another file, right? Inside the script, then you use the echo command. They all have different use cases.